you only get one life. What have you got to lose?
Yeah.
For entrepreneurs out there, if you've got an idea, just do it. And you know what? If you get laughed at, who cares? Laugh with them. Don't talk to them again. Doesn't matter. Half of them, you won't see them in 5 years again anyway, so don't worry. so, so I just think that's the biggest thing, I think, for entrepreneurs. I think whatever it is, just start it. I think a lot of things will come to you. I know people that will, they've got brilliant business ideas, but they will spend so much time in research, so much time doing it, that you eventually miss the momentum, or the momentum slows. I think you've just got to be, if it comes to you and you really feel good about it, why not try it?
Welcome to the Goddess Show podcast, voices of visionary women, inspiring female leaders by interviewing amazing guests to encourage us all to rise up. Enjoy. Hello and welcome to the Goddess Show, voices of visionary women, inspiring female leaders. And today we have a very, very special guest, Mel W. And Mel, you're a 3-time published author, a bestseller, podcaster, YouTuber, and founder of Mel W Co, with a career in finance. I mean, what else can you do? So welcome.
Thank you.
You're on board.
Pleasure to be here, and I'm actually really excited to do this interview, so thank you so much. It's an honor to be asked to be here tonight.
Oh, thank you for saying that. Okay, well, let's get started then. And my first question to you is to share a little about your own personal inspiring story, because I know it's inspiring.
I guess for me, I've always had a bit of an attitude of can do, and why not with a question mark, but with both with exclamation marks. I wake up in the morning, I see it as a new opportunity to try something new or finish something I was meant to finish yesterday. So obviously, with all that list that you mentioned, I'm also a single mum of 2 young boys, and I think they kind of inspire me, to be honest, because you look at them and you want the best for them. So I kind of think, what can I do that could be better for them? What opportunities can I create for them? So yeah, my boys are now 13 and 14. So
How do you find the time?
I'll be honest, when they were very little, people used to say that same thing to me, and it's a very different ball game. So when they were smaller, they were a bit more manageable. Now that they're teenagers, I am finding the juggle of everything that you mentioned before is getting a little bit trickier with all their sports. But I think it comes down to doing what you want to do. Do you know what I mean? I know a lot of people that will often do what's on a list. I think sometimes you just got to pick what makes you feel good, and you tend to get it done if you feel good about it, and you go back to do more. So I guess that's how I've kind of juggled it all. But yeah, no, I've got a very, very, very supportive network of friends, which I'm very fortunate to have, which always having your friends backing you and, egging you on has always been a really inspiring thing. I've got a lot of friends with all different tapestries, and they're all inspiring. And yeah, I think it comes down to kindness, patience, and really generosity of their time. So yeah.
Isn't that amazing? It's great to have a good support network, isn't it? And what you mentioned about time too, I find that time and money are the biggest objections that people have. And yet, when something is a high priority, as you say, something that we do that we absolutely love, it becomes a priority and we find the time. And if something is something we absolutely need or want, we also find the money, don't we? So thank you for making that point, and thank you for sharing that. I have a huge admiration for single mothers. I really, really do. So I want to ask you next about your business. Tell us about your business.
So I have Mel W Co, and that's actually, I guess, my third book, which was the bestseller. It was really inspired by Mel W Co, and that was called The Other Little Black Book: An Essential Guide for Men on Dating Apps. And how that came about was, I think I just saw an opportunity to help people. I'd been on dating apps for a couple of years, and on and off, but and it actually dawned on me that there's actually some really nice guys out there, but they just don't know how to present themselves particularly well. Or so Mel W Co offers tips, and my podcast From Benchwarmer to Dating App Pro. It's just pretty much going through, just helping some great guys out there, and and I guess I'm doing it for the women as well, because hopefully, a guy that they'd normally overlook because of a mediocre profile, actually, they get them noticed. So yeah, that's probably where that came from. And I don't know, I actually I enjoy it. I guess I enjoy giving advice on that. I enjoy looking at the story, looking at their journey, and it is kind of fun. I guess that's what it is. I think I actually find it quite fun to hear of people's, responses. Oh, I tried this and it worked, and you're like, great. It's so yeah. So with Mel W and Co, really what it is, it's an online community. So I mean, even women, I've got girlfriends that have gone on my website and actually said it's quite useful for them. So, it's got there's a few blogs on there, there's a few, tips, articles. So yeah, I've actually turned it into an online information or online community hub, I guess. So
That sounds
and
exciting.
yeah, yeah, it is. It is. And it's not too much of an effort for me because it comes naturally, but I think it would make a big difference to someone else who needs that help. So I'm enjoying it. And I guess my book, which was, as you mentioned, a bestseller, booklocker.com's Lisa actually publishing house in Florida. It was one of those things where I was in shock that, I saw it at, I think it was number 7, and then I saw it go to number 1. And,
Oh,
you
fantastic.
know, yeah, well, I think what it is, and to be honest, how I came up with the idea of the book was on my website, Mel W and Co. It started off as being a consultancy type business. And then I wanted to move away from that space. But I looked at my Google Analytics and realized I had such a huge, not huge, but I had a lot of, I guess, people looking at my website and visiting my website that were based in the US, from New York down to California. So I guess I was like, you know what, maybe I'll just put a book on here and, maybe make it a blog. And it just grew from there, basically.
That sounds fantastic. So that I wonder if that covers my next question to you, which is what were the first few steps you took to get this up and running?
I was stop, start, stop, start. I doubted myself at some stages, at other times. I think that was the tricky bit, right? Because you're doing something that's out of your comfort zone, but you kind of know it's a good partnership. It's like, cheese and wine. You're looking at it, you're like, this can work. I'm kind of easygoing. I can give advice. Sorry if you can hear any noise in the background. Where I live, I actually have fireworks. So
You had
it's
fireworks on.
yeah, it's
Is
yeah,
there something special going on tonight that I don't know?
I think it's Vivid because where I live,
Oh,
yeah,
Vivid.
yeah, I think Vivid has fireworks every night from memory, but
Okay.
yeah, so I'm
For
just trying
just
to
listeners, Vivid is actually on in Sydney.
yeah, it's a light
Okay.
show, and they have fireworks nearly every night during it. So yeah, so I guess with that, with the whole Mel W and Co thing, I don't know, just naturally, it just felt right. And I think sometimes you'll start something, and I've started things before, and I think that's the biggest thing. I've started many of things and they've not worked, and I think it's because it wasn't the right fit. But I don't know. I found this, it's kind of amazing being a woman. I really feel like you got that versatility. What I'm doing now, it's a business for men. But then, I've got my other books, which are really for women. They were like I think it was called The Single Mother Trying Not to F Up Life and Welcome to My Fabulous Show, were 2 books. And they were aligned with my podcast and website, which is Single Mother's Guide to the Galaxy, which is actually a community for women. So it's kind of like I went, you know what, I've got something for women and I've got something for men. So,
That sounds
um,
absolutely perfect. But do
yeah,
you remember, I know you said it was stop and start, but for our listeners and viewers, can you share what specific steps you took, perhaps? Just
yes.
first steps.
Well, the first step is to start. That's the truth. So the first step was to start, because a lot of it was in my mind. A lot of it was, oh, what do I do? And I think what I started doing, and for those of you that are on a budget, 'cause as I mentioned before, I am a single mom. I've got, kids that are quite expensive, play a lot of sports. So everything I do, I'm very budget conscious. So, in terms of where did I start? I looked up, I guess, different websites, like what they offered, what the features were, because everything I tried to do for free, basically, is the truth.
That's the beauty of
Um,
working online, isn't it?
it is. Everybody's got some free trial. Just remember to unsubscribe in time or you get lumbered with these big bills. No, but I think what I did, the first thing was I had to work out what I wanted to do. And I think that's the biggest thing. You've got to work out the purpose and the why. Why are you doing it? I think when you work out the why, it slowly comes together, like, why am I doing this? I'm doing it because, well, for Mel W Co, because I see an opportunity to help people, but I also know that I can do it in a way where I find it fun. I do it light. I make it easy. So I kind of matched my personality to my why, to my audience.
Okay,
Um,
so would that be why you think you're passionate about it?
100%. I think if you can't see it, you can't do it properly, right? So if you can't visualize where it is you want to go, what you're trying to do, then I truly believe you're going to struggle because it's almost like if you don't have the vision, it stops. It's like I work in finance, so it's in program management, which includes change management. They always say if you don't see the vision, you will always have stop, start, stop, start, stop, start. And I think that's what happened here is when the vision finally fell in here, bits came. I thought, okay, so I want to do, this space. So I went and rented as you know, at Tap Gallery, I rented a space there. And I thought, okay, well, we'll do consulting. I'll do the space and I'll do my podcast here. And, I think it just slowly came. I need a website. Okay. So then, I went on to Wix. That was one platform that I used for this website. And, I got templates. I use templates, so instead of hiring all these people, because a lot of people often say, I can't afford to do it. And I didn't want to fall into that because you can actually afford to do it. You just have to get creative. So, for a season, like at the moment, I'm putting a season together for my podcast. Instead of paying someone thousands of dollars to write my content, use AI. Copilot's actually free on your phone. So, and you say, okay, I want to write this. This is what I'm looking at. This is my book. There are just so many tools out there that people are throwing at us. I think it's actually really understanding what is at your fingertips and putting that to use. And that were the first couple of steps I had to do was actually work out the why, the how, and the how much. I think
Fantastic. That's such good advice. Thank you so much, Mel. And coming back to your why is actually really important because if your why isn't strong enough, if you're not passionate about something, then you're more likely to give up, at the first obstacle or get bored with it or sick of it or, just give up. So
it's
why is really, really important. So my next question to you is what have been your biggest challenges so far?
oh, okay. Okay, I'm gonna be honest.
Please.
Lately, okay. So lately, and this is a bit off track, but for women out there, that are in the similar boat, menopause has been my biggest
Right.
challenge. What happened is I'm used to running, I'm used to boom, boom, I get things done like this. All of a sudden, my body's changing. It's almost like going through teenage hormones, but in reverse,
Yes.
because, it's like my body's changing. So, how I used to work really fast and be able to, throw out three, four things at once, I've actually found my energy levels kind of a bit lower than what they normally are. So in terms of chat, so what I've been trying to do, and a lot of my friends have heard me moan a lot about this, but what I've actually been trying to do is find the balance of recognizing that, my body's changing a little bit, my mind's changing because of the sleep patterns are changing. So it's now just working out how I'm now becoming more efficient. So when I've got the energy to do something, I do it. As opposed to before, I'd be like, yeah, I got energy, but I'll go do this and I'll come back. So it's really what I'm actually finding now. That's been my challenge between that and my boys getting a lot older, requiring more attention, playing more sport. So generally speaking, time is a luxury. And they say it's your most important asset that you have that you can never, ever get back,
Get back.
right?
Yeah.
So time. So I think what it's become a little bit now is trying to balance my time, balance my dreams, balance the tiredness. It's kind of, like I'm 51 this year. So I think it's almost like I'm going into this different phase where things are different. So my body is catching up to my mind, I guess you could say. I still think like I'm about 20. I still want to do everything, but my body's a little bit slower. So I think it's at the moment I'm just doing a bit of I don't know, reconciliation of the books on that one. So I think that would probably be a bit of my challenge at the moment. And I know it sounds like it's a weird challenge, but I think it's one that we don't often speak about. But I would have to say 100%, I've been a single mum for 12 years, so that hasn't changed. It's not like that's happened all of a sudden. So yeah, I would say that would be the challenge. I don't think it'll defeat me. I think what it's doing is it's actually making me stop now, reset, basically. I'm having to do a bit of a reset. So that's where that stage is. So yeah, that would be my challenge at the
Well,
moment.
I really want to thank you for bringing up menopause because it is a major event in women's lives. I mean, I've actually gone through it. And it does really, really change your life. And it sounds like, I mean, my next question was, have you overcome these challenges? And if so, how did you do it? I think what you're saying is you're creating a balance so that you can accommodate your new normal, the new
Yes.
reality. Yeah.
Yes, yes,
So that's
like
how you're overcoming it. And sometimes it means reassessing everything we do. And that's fine too, because the thing is that we can only do our best with what we have at any given time. Isn't that right?
exactly. And I think that, and that's what it is. It's one of those things where, it was kind of funny because it didn't actually really creep up. It was just like it hit me one day and I was like, "Oh, what's all this going on?" Yeah, and then I think what it was, I went to a doctor, spoke with them, got some tests done. So, what I started doing was having to look at lifestyle
Yes.
changes.
Yes.
So it was really different to a business change where I had to do a whole new strategy. My strategy is the same. It's become my womanly strategy at the moment. It's had to,
Well, that's
have a
fantastic.
bit of
So
a juggle.
are you saying that it hasn't affected your business at all?
No, I think like it hasn't affected the way I'm going, like what I've got planned for the business. It hasn't affected anything like that. What it's probably affected is my energy that I used to have compared to now. So I'm kind of now looking at, the ticket items that I get the most from, basically. Yeah. So, like in terms of, for me, it was, the content strategy, the business brand strategy. It was getting those done first because that to me was knowing how it's really funny because before I'd be able to do these things just up here, bang, bang, bang. Whereas since I've had a bit of a readjustment, I need these things now written down. You know what I mean? So having it sort of printed, like actually going and putting these threads, like actually getting them printed properly. So it made me feel better, putting it in a binder. So, it really made me feel like this is it. It was, yeah. So whereas before I was quite good in a way I could just get things done, get it out. That just, for me, I think you've got to find that thing that what makes you feel good, what makes you feel like it's less of a task, like it's less daunting, like it's
Yes.
less overwhelming. And I think that's what I did. I just had to set up things so they were a little bit more, I guess you could say a little bit more schmick in that industry, as opposed to before I'd be able to just roll these things off the tip of my tongue with all the energy in the world. So when the energy levels started depleting, I actually did think to myself, what is something that will keep me in the game?
Yeah.
And for me, it was about brand. It was about how I felt. It was about, showing up. When I look at these strategies, do I sit up straight? Do I put my stomach in? Do I do this? Do I do? And yes, it did. And I think sometimes you've got to give yourself a bit of an optical illusion to push you a bit harder. So that's what I
Yeah.
did with that.
Well, that's really good advice for our listeners and viewers. Thank you, Mel. So tell me, how do you keep motivated through difficult times? You did touch on that in your last answer, but I'm
Yeah.
just wondering, do you have like, how do you do it?
Okay, other than my two friends, Pinot and Grigio, no, just kidding.
Okay.
I'm just joking.
Pinot and Grigio.
I just wanted to say that. Sometimes you need just even one friend that you can sort of turn to, you can bounce things off, because there's this really important thing, and I've learned this, is that you'll have friends that you'll tell things to, or you'll have these big dreams and you'll tell them about it, and for some unknown reason they may not mean to, they create doubt,
Yes,
or
yes,
and I think because they struggle seeing you grow. So by them struggling seeing you grow, they do that, So I think you've got to get a radar and you've got to work out in your whole big pool of friends, don't get me wrong, you've got, who are the ones that you love to go out and have a great drink with? Who are the ones that you can sit down and just talk pure business with? Who are the ones that you can really open up, tell them your dream, tell them where you want to go, tell them you want to go beyond the next stratosphere. And they're the ones when they turn around and say, "You can do it. I reckon that sounds a great idea." You know, that's what you need. And I'll be honest, I think most people only have one or two, one or two true
Right.
ones.
That's right.
Um, it's not saying the rest of your friends are bad. They're not. It's just
No, 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 no.
they're different purpose.
You've touched on something really, really interesting here, and that is realizing that certain friends are good for certain things, and people are good at some things and not good at other things. So it makes sense. What you're saying is to be with a friend who is in your vibration, on your frequency, who can see and encourage you and empower you, and that motivates you. That's what you're saying, isn't it?
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, yeah, exactly. That's exactly what I'm saying. If you've got this vision, right, and you're going for it, and sometimes all you need is someone to go, hmm, and you'll throw it away. When you're not quite sold on where you think you're going and you're looking for something, or you just because you can't keep all of this to yourself. That's a big thing. You can't. And you just sometimes if you're not quite there at the starting block, but you're around that space and you say to someone, I'm gonna jump in and do this race. Now all you need, if you're not confident, is someone to go, yeah, okay, you're virtually going to second guess yourself. You'll, go back a couple of weeks, maybe months, or maybe you'll even drop the project. The one thing that I have also learnt too, if you really think you're going to do it, then don't listen to anyone else and just give it a
That's
crack.
right.
Yeah, yeah.
Right.
So, and I think, look, when I talk about having people there, I'm not saying those people are giving me permission, but sometimes it's nice to have it. But at the end of the day, my view is everything I have a go at, I do it shamelessly. I just think, what have I got to lose? I'm not hurting anyone, not breaking any laws, like robbing banks or anything like that. All I'm doing, all I'm doing is I have a vision and I'm playing it out. And I don't know. Someone once said, they were talking about a book that they'd read about someone that was on their deathbed, and they said all these things they wish they had done. And I remember thinking, I don't want to ever be like that. I would rather, yeah, I'd rather just, have a go at it. What's the worst that could happen, really? I mean, if it's a business idea, we've all had like a billion ideas, and eventually one will pay off. You just got to keep trying.
That's great advice. Thanks, Mel. Okay, so tell me, what is the best advice you've received recently?
The best advice I've received recently was, and it was actually about what I mentioned before, to be honest. It was me, with menopause. And the best advice I got was, you actually haven't stopped and realized your body's changed. You're still operating as though you were before, all those symptoms kicked in. And I remember that was actually really good advice because that's what made me stop and pause and breathe and reassess. Because before I was getting really, and I don't know if you get like that, I was chasing my tail and I was getting really frustrated. I was getting frustrated myself, thinking, why can't I do this? I used to pump this stuff out all the time. Why am I feeling tired all of a sudden? Why is my body doing this? Why is my body doing that? And when the lady said, you just have to pause and you have to let your mind actually like realign with what your body's doing.
Yeah,
And that to me was the best advice because
that's
I
such
was,
good advice.
yeah, it was, and I think that to me is something that you forget is that it's the breathing, it's the pausing. I think that's something, that when I'm panicking sometimes about something or I'm a bit overwhelmed, the power of stopping and
Yes,
just breathing
yes.
and just I think that's the best advice. When she said to me, "I need to do that," it actually did start to realign things for me. Like, I started being more forgiving
Mm.
with myself on why I wasn't getting things done when I used to get it done so much faster. Why I wasn't, just, like, everything's changing, let me tell you.
Yeah, I
So
know, I know, I've been through it. I
I
know.
know, I know, so and also coming to peace with
Yeah,
it. I think that's a big thing, and I was kind of thinking the other day, like workplaces always have these. Are you okay? They talk about breast cancer, they talk about prostate cancer. And I thought, why is menopause still such a little cloak and dagger sort of word? To me, it's now that obviously now that I'm here, I've taken an interest in it. Your body's like your vehicle, it is your car. So
And it's about listening to your body as well, isn't it?
it is, it
I think,
is.
here's to menopause.
I think
Absolutely.
so.
Here's to menopause. I mean, it's a big chapter in our lives, you know?
Think I used to think of the Golden Girls, when you think menopause. Now I'm there. I'm more like Sex in the City. I'm like, no,
I
no,
love it.
no.
That's why I went to Cancun recently. It was because I'd seen that episode where they go to Cancun. I had to do it. So,
Exactly.
so what advice would you give to other aspiring female entrepreneurs?
I think just back yourself, really. Like, I remember listening to a podcast. He was talking about just do it. You know what I mean? Like, entrepreneurs have an appetite for growth, the mindset. They actually have a gift. My dad actually told me this. My dad said, I'm a very entrepreneurial mindset, is what he said one day. And he said, you just see things and you can make something out of it. And that's what I think entrepreneurs can do. They can see a bottle top on a table somewhere and say, you know what, that could actually turn into this or that. I think with entrepreneurs, that's the biggest thing. And I think we're creative beings,
Yeah,
we don't have to don't have to have a paintbrush to be creative. You can be creative in business and
in
how you
so many
wanted to.
ways.
Yeah,
Absolutely everything.
yeah. So I think with that, to me, it's just, you know what, you only get one life. What have you got to lose?
Yeah,
For
yeah.
entrepreneurs out there, if you've got an idea, just do it. And you know what? If you get laughed at, who cares? Laugh with them. Don't talk to them again. Doesn't matter. Half of them you won't see them in 5 years again anyway. So don't worry. so, so I just think that's the biggest thing. I think for entrepreneurs, I think you really just have to just just start. Whatever it is, just start it. I think a lot of things will come to you. I know people that will, they've got brilliant business ideas, but they will spend so much time in research, so much time doing it that you eventually miss the momentum or the momentum slows. I think you've just got to be, if it comes to you and you really feel good about it, why not
Do
try
it.
it?
Do it. That's
Yeah.
good advice. Thanks, Mel. So tell me right now, what are your favorite couple of business tools and resources and why?
Right now, I would say Copilot. It's amazing. I could get it to write me, well, a brand strategy. You just say, this is my website, this is my products, this is whatever. I want to build this. And it actually will write you, and I want a strategy done in 3 weeks. It will actually give you step by step for each week what to do. So I think AI, never discount it. My favorite AI bit is Copilot. Now, this is a bit of a geeky part of me, but I think you need to have a schedule or a plan of some sort. So whether that plan, now I know I talked about strategy before, but I mean implementation plans. Like, I'm a bit of a Microsoft project girl, only because, like, as
Okay.
I'm a project manager, program manager by trade. But it's that list. It's, being able to put the, completion. I think it's tracking yourself. You know what I mean? So have something that tracks your implementation, have something that tells you what to do. The other
Well, they're
thing,
great tools.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah. Look, they're really
But
good
there's
tools.
more.
Yeah, look, YouTube. I mean, depends what you want to do. Look, you can't get better. You cannot get a better tool, honestly, than your phone. Your phone, you can record anything on it. You can make anything on it. Hell, I wrote my first book on my phone. You know what I mean? It's like, I think because phones have just become so much part of us, we actually don't really take the time to look at how extraordinary of a tool it is for your business, for everything. So I would say phone, Microsoft Project, or Copilot. They're my three favorites at the moment.
Fantastic.
Yeah, I know my millennial friends and Gen Zs and God knows what else will give you some fancy canvas and what. I'm old school, so they're my three.
Oh, look, that sounds great. So tell me, what are your current goals and how are you striving to achieve them? Let's work with one goal.
Okay, no, they're good. Life's all about balance. So I'd say one big goal is getting my From Benchwarmer to Dating App Pro season out, because I actually have to rebadge that channel, which basically is almost like taking it down to put it back up, and it's a bit of, it's a bit of energy to do that. But I would say in the next month is actually filming the full season for that. That's a big goal that I've got in the Mel W and Co space, is the podcast and YouTube channel. I think at the moment, I probably get the books out there a little bit more. So my 3 books, putting them back in the marketing spiel. The last book, which is the other little black book, The Essential Guide for Men, is probably getting it more into the hands of media people to try and get some interviews. So that's another space. You know what? And the other one is just staying sane and making sure my kids choose a really good nursing home for me. So I've got to be manage not being a monster to them. Really tricky. I think that's my third one.
Well, they sound like fantastic goals, so I wish you amazing success. Now,
Thank
are you
you.
currently running any promos, contests, or giveaways for our viewers? And
I don't, but you know what? I shouldn't I? Let me think. It's like, give away 3 copies of my book for, I guess, anyone that writes and gives what their 3 goals are. The
oh,
first 3 to
I
write.
love that. Let's go with that. Did you hear that? And see that, everybody. So write down your goals in the comments, and the first 3 get a book from LW. And this is your best-selling book, isn't it?
It is, yes.
Oh my God, what a gift. Fantastic. Thank you. Okay, so here's a little gem. What would you say to inspire other women? I know you've said, female entrepreneurs, just do it, but just women in general. Do you have an inspirational quote you'd like to share?
I truly believe this. It's not so much a quote, it's probably more of a belief that I have. Just be careful how your mind thinks, because that's the energy you project. I don't think people, like women, we get judged quite a lot. A lot more is expected of us and a lot of other things. And I just sort of think, it's that if you love yourself up here, then I think it's what you project out as well. I think it's being kind to yourself. I think when we get caught up in the day to day, I would say be kind to yourself, love yourself. You do those, it'll come. And then I think things just get a bit lighter.
Thank you
That's all.
so much. That's such great advice. Very wise. Thank you so much, Mel. So tell me, finally, how can we connect with you?
Well, you could go to my website, which is Single Mother's Guide to the Galaxy. You could go there. You can send me an email, drop me an email. I've got some podcasts, episodes on Spotify. If you've got any single relatives or friends or, males, you can always send them to Mel W and Co. Or go there yourself. And you know what? I'm really open. Like, both have different, ways you can contact me, to the website. But if there's anything you ever want me to write about, so I do write articles for both women and men. Yeah, if there's anything that you'd like to see in an article, shoot us an email through those websites, and yeah, I'm happy to write something and publish it. So I'd say that would be probably the best way to connect with me. And
So we've got 2 websites, is that correct?
yes, so you've got the Single
Mel
Mothers
W and Co.
Yeah, Mel W and Co. And then there's the Single Mother's Guide to the Galaxy as well. But the other thing you could do is, and I'm also president on the board of an art gallery that's a not-for-profit, Tap Gallery website, go on there, have a look. They've got some great events, that happen, and it's supporting, up and coming artists. So, we recently just had a very big gig last weekend, which is amazing. And Mel W and Co is actually the sponsor of the art prize. And that was called the Real Refusers. So it was the people that were rejected from the Archibald, Sullivan and Wins prize. And we actually had Black Douglas, who was the 2022 Archibald winner, hand out the Mel W and Co
Oh,
prize.
wonderful. I'm so sorry I missed that. That sounds fantastic.
Yeah, so I think, there are different ways to connect, but I think I'm not quite sure. Did you mean connect with
And
me
you're on
personally?
social media as well.
Yes, so I'm Miss Mel W on Instagram, so feel free to go there, but I will fill you in a secret. I haven't turned them into business pages yet, so it's probably why I'm saying I'll push you to my websites. But hey,
Okay.
reach out any which way you like.
Okay, that's
I'm
great.
good.
Well, thank you so much. I really enjoyed this interview, and thank you for your time and all your valuable advice. I'm sure that our viewers and listeners will really appreciate it. So thank you again, Mel, and it's great to see you. Bye for now.
No, thank you. Bye.
Thank you for tuning in to the Gotta Show podcast. We hope you've enjoyed it, and if you did, Feel free to like, subscribe, share, and we look forward to seeing you next time.